The best way to get better at programming is to practice. And in this example, we're going to look at using multiple arguments in our function. As always, a link to this file is available in the description below so that you can practice on your own. Follow along if you like, or pause the video so you can try it first and then follow along to check your answer. Let's try this out real quick. We're going to define a function. So def, and it's going to print out a person's name. Now this is going to take two names, a first name and a last name. So I'm going to call this first, comma, and last. And this is very important. Whenever we have more than one parameter that's being passed into our function, remember, arguments are what we pass to it, parameters are what we receive. So when we have multiple parameters in our parameter list, we're going to separate them by a comma. I'm going to hit the colon at the end, just like I normally do, and have my block. Now this is going to print out in last name first, comma, and then the first name. So we are going to say print last plus, put a comma in a literal string, plus, and first. Now you might think, well, why didn't I use the comma to separate those out? Well, remember the comma by default is going to put an extra space, and this is allowing us to not have that space just a little bit easier. So what we did is string concatenation, which is to add two or more strings together, and that's what the plus is for. Let's go ahead and call this from a main function. We're passing in string literals. Once again, our arguments, and they're arguments because that's what's being passed to the function, the strings, so they're enclosed in quotes, but there is a comma that separates them. You will notice I have two separate strings, one for first name, one for last name. That's because if the comma was inside the quotes, it's considered part of that string, and therefore it would not be counted. So whenever we have two or more arguments, we must separate them by a comma, and the comma cannot be inside of a string. We are going to use good and proper form, so that means I'm going to set up my if statement. If underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals underscore underscore main, then we will call our main function. Notice that we are passing in Bob and Smith as our two associated values. Because we have not named these arguments, you're going to notice that the first argument that was passed goes in as the first parameter. The second argument that's passed goes in as the second parameter. And this will continue on for however many parameters there are in the list. So let's go ahead and run this. And you notice it prints out Smith, comma, Bob, just as we expected. We might look at that and go, oh, wait a second, I want to have a space after that comma. I can change it inside a print name. And if this got called 100 times, it gets fixed for all of them. That's the nice thing about having those parameters in a function. It allows my function to do multiple things with only a change in what's sent to it. Run it again and you say, okay, that's exactly what I want for my function. So this gets us a chance to see functions with multiple arguments that can be passed to it, or having multiple parameters. Now you might ask, well, what happens if I only sent in one argument? So if we go and run this, we're going to get an error. And this is talking about the positional argument last. The last, in this case, or second parameter, well, there was nothing found there, so it had a problem. So in this example, it doesn't take a default value if it doesn't exist. So we're going to need to see how to change that. And that can be found in an upcoming video. So keep looking at videos on this channel to get better at your Python programming.